Don't leave California unless you've watched this video. I have 9 or 10 points that I want to reveal to you about my move from California to Tennessee. Now, I'm a Tennessee native. I grew up out here, but a lot has changed in the last 10 years since I spent out in California doing startup companies in IT and tech. And so when I moved back to be with my family in Tennessee, boy, it was a world of difference. There was some things that I had forgotten. There's something that had changed. There's some things that were absolutely different. But the first thing I want to tell you guys about is the weather. Now, I live out in Tennessee right now. I grew up out here, but the problem is that I had forgotten about the climate. The climate out here, you got to remember that we have a little more humidity out here. So it's a lot more tropical. You have a lot more green. Out in California, I had to remind myself that my neighbors could burn down my house by simply mowing their lawn. And that's because it's a very dry climate, almost a desert out there in some places. And so if you come out here and you're like, man, it's so sweltering hot, it's actually not much hotter. It's about 10 degrees or less lower than the places I lived in California. But the problem was that there was a lot more drier climate out there, a lot more humidity out here. Out here, the temperature ranges anywhere from the 90s in the summertime down to the, it gets down to 20s sometimes, but it sometimes can, it usually stays around the 40s. And so it's not very cold. It's a very mild climate. That's why a lot of people out here like camping, like to go on hikes, and like to do all kinds of stuff out here. But that's the one thing that I was amazed at was the climate and the weather out here. The worst natural disaster you'll have out here is flooding, because we have a lot more wet weather. There's also seasonal changes. Out in California, you had a distinct, hey, it's becoming spring now. Hey, it's becoming summer now. Out in Tennessee, we have fake spring and fake fall and fake winter, because it seems to blow in and then come back and blow in and then come back and blow in and then come back until it finally recesses into a specific season. And that's what makes the fall season so beautiful, though, too, because you get the changing the leaves, and it becomes a beautiful area while the weather is changing and going from cold to hot. It makes the leaves change a beautiful color. Another thing I forgot was that California has all these things within about 2 hours of each other, which was, Tahoe up at the top. I lived in Sacramento area. You had the beach a couple hours away in San Francisco, and then you had any type of mountain trail and stuff like that in between. Out in Tennessee, we get bouldering, we have hiking, we have, you go down, walk down streams, you can jump in the river. You have beautiful hikes out here to amazing waterfalls. We didn't have as many waterfalls out there in California. And we don't have Yellowstone or some national big parks like that, but we do have the Great Smoky Mountains, which is at the base of the Appalachian Mountains, which is out here in Chattanooga and Knoxville. So I think it's something to consider when you're evaluating whether or not you're coming from California to come to Tennessee, that you realize that this is a unique place, and this city really pushes for the idea of being outdoors and having your family be outdoors. Food culture. Out in California, it was a melting pot of culture. And still is in Tennessee a little bit, because we have the Music City in Nashville, which is well known for its recording industry. And because of working remotely and having the internet, that's kind of spread out from Nashville and gone to these other cities where you can record down there. And because of that, you have lots of different culture that has grown into these cities. However, it's not the same as it was in California. In California, you had authentic Mexican, authentic Asian dishes. You could go and find those almost anywhere, and they'd be absolutely fantastic. Out in Tennessee, not as much. You also in California had maybe a catering to vegetarian, veganism, gluten-free, things like that, that if you have a specific lifestyle you're trying to live, you can live it out there. And out here, you can still get some of that at the stores, but you can't do it at the chain restaurants and the eateries and the places like that, because they're used to their Southern style. And their Southern style is a little more greasy. Out here, the Southern style is the grits and the potatoes and putting bacon bits in your green beans. I mean, you got to watch out for the stuff if you were trying to lead a lifestyle that is a little more healthy, because the grease of the Southern style cooking is a lot different than what you might be used to out there and being able to eat more healthy. In fact, in Tennessee, the number one search term on Google is, how do I lose weight? It's a pandemic out here, but it's okay, because everywhere has the pros and cons. Housing and real estate was a big surprise. So I grew up in Tennessee, and so when I left after college, I had not bought a house out here. So going out to California, I realized that the market, you could buy a house for $200 at one point, and then it would skyrocket up to $800,000. And so these houses would have this huge flux over time. You could watch it on like Zillow or Redfin, this graph that would go up and down. But out here, the graph wouldn't go but maybe about 200,000 up and down versus the over 600,000 that it would fluctuate in California, which was great if you're an investor because you could wait it out, sell, and then buy it low and sell high. But out here in Tennessee, it's better for the families because the fluctuation in housing doesn't go up and down as much, so you can buy lower. And by the way, I'm a real estate agent, so I kind of follow all that stuff. So if you're interested in finding more about the real estate market in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or you're thinking about moving out here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you contact me at that number, or at least take my number down. Email me, text me, or take my move survey in the links below. Because the next thing that I noticed was the lifestyle and the pace of life. So out there in California, it was a very, very big rush to try to invent the next thing. I mean, I was in the IT field, so I mean, there was always someone pushing to get the better tech. That Silicon Valley mentality has kind of spread out throughout the whole state, where you have to have the latest, the best, and keeping up with the Joneses, and it has to be quickly, and it has to be quick and fast, and all this stuff. Out in Tennessee, exactly opposite. So you have the slow lifestyle. People regard family as more important than your job or how much money you're making. So that because of that, the income levels tend to be a bit lower because the focus isn't on me and how much I can get. The focus is on how much time can I spend with my family and how are my neighbors doing. By the way, that's another thing we noticed when we came out here is when we moved out here, we got some property and we would always have our neighbors coming over to us and saying, hey, how is it going? You know, what are you doing? Let me tell you about me. Let me tell me about you. They wanted to get to know you. And we were thinking, you know, this is great and all, but we're not used to how much social time is going on here. And so all these people would come out from all over the place. I mean, not just our direct neighbors, our neighbors' would come over and they just wanted to talk story. And I would look at my wife and go, why are these people so friendly out here? It was a little bit getting used to that because out in California, we had some great neighbors too. They weren't as friendly as these people. We had one guy that was very nice, but man, it is a different world out here. Another difference we had was the entertainment and the arts. So out in California, it's very art-centric. I mean, you think about Hollywood, that's where a lot of the art comes from. But in Tennessee, you do have a little bit more of that, but it's on the music side of things because of the music city. Nashville is well known as that, as I mentioned previously. But it's come down here a little bit. There's recording industries in Chattanooga as well, but the film industry isn't here as much. So if you're in the film industry and this is part of your career, maybe you do video editing, maybe you do After Effects, maybe you do motion graphics of some kind, then this is a good place if you want to work remotely. Because out in Atlanta, you have an amazing industry down there. Nashville, amazing recording industry up in Nashville. And Chattanooga, you're kind of 2 hours from both those places. So if you want to work remotely, that's perfect for you, but you're not going to find a direct in-house location as much here in Chattanooga. Public transportation is another big one. People come from New York, they come from Chicago, they come from Los Angeles, and they ask me, well, how do I get around down there? Is it good public transportation? No. We have a bus system, but it's not going to go out to your suburbs. It's not going to go long ways out from the city like where the city is spread out to. Out here in Tennessee, you can have a suburb, then you can have a farm. You can have another suburb, you can have another farm. And it's not like California where everything is condensed into one and they try to keep country and the city. Everything is kind of spread out. Contractors can go out and they can buy a piece of property, 5 acres, and they can put 80 houses on it. I'm exaggerating, but it's a little bit different out here. And you got to realize that if you don't know how to drive, you should probably get your license. And finally, the night scene is something I don't really speak well to, but I know that California probably has a better handle on that than Tennessee does. We, again, are more focused on family, and so we do close early. There's not a lot of 2 a.m. clubs open. There's not a lot of nightlife bars and stuff open in Tennessee as much. But if you're looking for that, there's up in Nashville, like I said, and Atlanta has plenty of that too. And by the way, if you're looking for a real estate agent and you are coming to Tennessee, look me up. Here's my number. You want to take it down, put it in your phone so you can give me a call, give me a text and say, hey, by the way, I want access to the MLS. I want to look and see what the market's like in Tennessee, and I'll give you access immediately. Or you can go to ChattanoogaHomes.for-sale and look it up yourself. And then later on, you can look me up, put my number in, and call me later when you get to Chattanooga. Either way, my number's on the screen here, and we hope to see you around town.